What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades. Today's feature blade, we have a fixed blade from Columbia River Knife and Tool. What we have is the Ruger Series Accurate in their Upswept blade design. Again, this is part of the Ruger series from Columbia River Knife and Tool. This knife is available in two different blade styles. The upswept blade that you see here, and then more of a standard drop point. This is a Bill Harsey design. Bill is a custom knife maker and designer out of Oregon. He is very well known within the community, has done collaborations and production designs with multiple different companies in price ranges ranging from Gerber and Columbia River up to Chris Reeve knives. Again, very well known, very highly respected fellow in the knife community. Now, I want to knock a couple of things out first of all at the beginning of this video. The first thing is, this is a loaner knife from my buddy Dan. I do not have the original packaging on this. I do not have the original sheath on it. Dan had an aftermarket sheath made for this knife, and I'm going to show you why. Because the factory sheath for this knife is pretty much junk, and you do see that quite often in lower price ranges. Most of the money and consideration to design is put into the knife itself, and the sheath is just basically an afterthought. We're going to look here in the 2017. This is the dedicated Ruger catalog from Columbia River for 2017. We will look in that, and you can see here we've got the Accurate in the upswept blade. You've got the drop point version, and then you see the sheath here. The sheath is a nylon sort of pouch type sheath with basically zero retention and cheap build quality. Every one of us has seen these types of sheaths before. I believe it's just universally understood to be subpar for this knife. Dan had a local gentleman do a custom Kydex sheath for this knife, and it is pretty well done and is definitely a step up from the factory sheath. Now let's go ahead and knock out the specs on this knife. It's a medium-sized fixed blade. You've got a 4 3/8 inch blade length. That's 11 centimeters. Blade stock thickness 141 thousandths of an inch, or 3.6 millimeters. Your blade width 1 inch, or 25.5 millimeters. Handle length 4 5/8 of an inch, or 11.5 centimeters. Your handle thickness, this is a palm swill Coke bottle handle profile, and at the thickest it is 781 thousandths of an inch, or 19.84 millimeters. Your handle width 1.1 inch, or 28.1 millimeters. Overall length 9 inches, or 22.5 centimeters. Behind the edge thickness on the grind, I hit it in 3 spots and averaged it out, and it went about 23 thousandths of an inch, or 0.56 millimeters. Your weight for the knife alone, since I do not have the factory sheath, I'm going to do weight on knife alone, is 6.14 ounces, or 174 grams. I'm sure that foam core nylon sheath probably weighed a couple of 2 or 3 ounces, guys, so you could add that on for the factory setup. All right. You know what? I'm not a big hunter, and I don't often refer to knives as hunting knives because, in my experience, there are very few wild animals that stand still and let you walk up and stab them with a knife. Typically, your knife is going to be used for field dressing or skinning said animal after you bag it with your rifle, bow, or crossbow. So I'm going to refer to this knife as a field dressing knife or skinning knife, and not a hunting knife. Also, in my very limited experience in my youth hunting and field dressing, I personally prefer a drop point blade profile rather than an upswept and very pointy profile. And basically that is because of my lack of experience in field dressing, and it's easier for me to control that tip in a drop point knife. When you are field dressing, it is very easy to pierce through the wall of an internal organ and contaminate your meat, and you do not want to do that. So I prefer a drop point myself. Now, that said, this knife to me, you know what, when I have it in my hand, if I close my eyes and imagine that the entire knife is black, it's a fighting knife to me, guys. The handle design is fantastic. The blade design is very aggressive and pointy with great belly for slashing. It is very light and very quick in the hand. The balance is towards the handle. It makes for a very lightweight and very fast blade in the hand. Because of this handle design and the Coke bottle design, it rotates so well in the hand. If you use a knife for martial use, you train with it, you can appreciate a knife that rotates quickly and confidently. It gives you a lot of confidence in the hand. So let's talk about materials here. The blade steel is HCR13 MOV. Again, HCR13 MOV is a Chinese stainless steel. It is basically a competitor of 440 series stainless steels. Your typical carbon content is going to be 0.7 to 0.8%, chromium 13 to 14.5%, and this is a vanadium alloyed stainless steel with 0.1 to 0.25% vanadium. As far as your carbon content goes, that's in line sort of in between 440A and 440B. Your chromium content is lower than in the 440 series steels. And again, you have the added vanadium, which is a carbide former, which 440 steels do not have. And again, the vanadium as a carbide former combines with the free roaming carbon in the matrix of the steel, and it forms carbides, which are ultra hard particles within the matrix of the steel. Vanadium alloyed steels tend to be more aggressive and toothy cutters. HCR13 MOV gives you decent wear resistance, which is your edge retention, good toughness, and good corrosion resistance. You'll typically find it in lower end knives. Columbia River uses a lot of it. Kershaw uses a lot of it in their Chinese knives. It's a decent budget steel. As far as your handle material goes, you do have separate handle scales. They are hard plastic cord with rubber over molding on them for a tactile feel. And then they are bolted onto the handle with Torx head bolts. I'm sure that there is a threaded tube in the center here that each of these bolts screws in from each side. You do have a stainless cross guard here. It's a fixed blade knife, guys. As far as materials go, you've got stainless steel and you've got plastic and rubber. That is a pretty simple package right there. Your fit and finish, as far as the blade goes, the hollow grind on the blade is even. I'm going to pull the reflection up here and you can see there's not really any dips or bulges in the way it's reflecting the light in that hollow grind. So it is well ground. You do have a sharpening choil that is out past the plunge, so you can sharpen the blade to the termination of the edge without a bunch of wankiness and edge flare going on. Hollow grinds, love them or leave them. They do give you a thin behind the edge thickness. And again, about 22 or 23 thousandths of an inch. This is a pretty thin, slicey edge on this knife. The point, very well done, very sharp from the factory. It instantly will catch and pierce with very little pressure, guys. Again, that's the main reason I do not prefer this pointy of a knife for field dressing. But for stabbing into anything on purpose, yes, it would work very, very well, guys. You have a full swedge. It's pretty much the entire length of the blade. All your grind lines are vertical. Your primary grind and your flats are ground vertical. And then you have a parallel grind on the spine of the knife. So fit and finish on the blade, pretty doggone decent. Now, this guard, guys, first I'm going to say I love the guard. Aesthetically, it fits within the design of the knife. As far as functionability, it fits within the design of the knife. Absolutely no issue with the design at all. I like it. I like the look of it. The fit and finish is not custom quality. You are going to see some joiner lines on it. You can see here. And then your tang, as the tang inserts into underneath those guards, this is not soldered like you would see in a custom knife. So you can see the joiner line there. And the way these are done, they're pinned through with a pin of matching material to the bolster, and then it's ground flush, and you cannot see that, so that's very well done. Fit and finish in the handle. The handle scales to the full tang of the knife is even all the way around. No issues right there. The way that it butts up and joins this guard, no issues, no gappages there. So the fit and finish is pretty decent here. The finish on the hardware is even in dark black. You've got the Ruger emblem, since this is part of the Ruger series of knives done by Columbia River, which has the red enamel in it. It looks really, really nice. It is just a little pop of color in there that gives it a little more premium look and makes it stand out. And it is appreciated in this. The design of the handle. We're just going to go straight from fit and finish into ergos here, and I want to start on the handle end. I love this handle design. Again, when I look at this knife, I don't see a field dressing or skinning knife. I see a martial use knife. I love this handle profile, this Coke bottle profile. You can see in my medium size hands here, perfect grip size. My pinky falls right into this recess before it flares back out at the butt. You've got a good amount of flare towards the butt, so you're not going to pull your hand back off of the handle. You've got the forward guard here. You're not going to push your hand up onto the blade under use. You've got the rubber overmold on the handle that is very tactile, guys. You've got a center section here with checkering on it, a lot like on a pistol grip or shotgun or rifle stock, to give it that look that Ruger products would have, being a firearms company, and it does work very well. This is a fantastic handle design in multiple grips. It is just a classic open sort of handle design. There's no radical craziness going on that would restrict your grip in any way. It's very comfortable. The tactile grip itself is very good. And if you were going to use this knife in wet or bloody conditions, say you are dressing out an animal and your hands are covered in blood and fat, this handle design and the handle materials would work very, very well for that, to give you a no slip grip. Absolutely the standout on this knife is the handle design and choice of materials. All right, as going up into the usability of the blade, again, that upswept point, not my thing as far as a field dressing tool. But again, guys, if I close my eyes and imagine this knife is all black, this would be a fabulous fixed blade fighter. The weight, the balance is just slightly handle heavy, making the blade very light in the hand. With the Coke bottle profile on the handle, it rotates so very well from grip to grip, guys. It's just fantastic to use as far as that goes. You've got a plenty of belly right here for working any type of cutting project, whether you are pinch gripped up and you are using it for fine cuts, skinning out an animal, or whether you are using it in a martial use and you're slashing with it. Plenty of wide open belly for that. Great tip for piercing. To me, guys, it's not only a good looking knife blade profile, but a fairly utilitarian one, even though I wouldn't use it as a dedicated field dressing tool. I have seen from different manufacturers that they have had designs that they call Navajo designs, as in Native Americans. And I don't know if Navajos, how they use knives for real. Whether this is a design type that's inspired from them, as some companies have said, or not. But this knife, I could imagine if you were out in the field, you lived in the field, away from modern civilization, you could use this knife in a multiple different ways. Not only utility use, not only as a field dressing or skinning knife, you could get great martial use out of it as a offensive or defensive weapon. I think that overall it is a very well designed knife. My hat's off to Bill Harsey. I already know that he can just design the crap out of a knife, and again, he's done it here for Ruger. The fit and finish overall, very good. The blade grinds are good. The edge was good. I love the guard on it, the single-sided guard. It's just the right size, just the right shape to fit into the overall design and to provide functionability and safety as far as the grip to blade juncture goes. Again, the handle design is fantastic. I love the handle design. I love the handle material choice. No, it's not fancy. It's not pretty, but this knife is not a fancy or pretty knife. It's a stripped down user knife. So those handle materials and handle design work very well. Again, I'm sorry I don't have the original factory sheath. It's junk. I'm sorry, CRKT. That was a disappointment in this knife, not only to me, but to Dan, who owns this knife, and had to spend extra money to have an aftermarket sheath made for it. That is always a disappointment. I wish that knife companies would design sheaths with this same eye for detail and quality that they did their knives, instead of the sheath being sort of a secondary thought, because the sheath is extremely important to a fixed blade knife. A poor sheath will cause damage to your knife. It can cause loss of your knife. It can cause physical harm to the person carrying the knife. You don't want to fall down, have a fixed blade strapped to your side in a poor sheath, and have that knife stab through the sheath material into your body. That is something that happens fairly often, guys, and makes the sheath an important consideration. So I hope Columbia River takes a look at that and improves that. But overall, I very much like this knife. I can recommend the knife itself. If you prefer the drop point version, check that out also. I am assuming that it's going to be exactly the same thing, just in a different blade profile, so I would expect just as good of quality out of it. And as always, guys, I thank you very much for taking the time to view one of my videos. God bless all of you. and we will talk to you again.